Hello, Facebook fans, YouTube fans of DX Engineering. It is Tuesday afternoon here in the Eastern time zone of the USA. We are talking technology at DX Engineering, and it's with Rod, K3LR, our senior guru here at DX Engineering. How you doing, Rod?
I'm good, Tim. How are you?
Good, good. Rod, wanted to talk about interfacing radios with your computer. I mean, a lot of guys just getting a new radio, or maybe it's a new radio to them. It could be a used radio. But Rod, talk about some of the things you need to think about when you're interfacing the radio with a computer.
Sure. The history of this is pretty muddy because the ways that certain transceivers used to connect to computers were littered with different types of connection schemes, different protocols, and it still is like that to a certain extent. For example, Kenwood still uses an RS-232 COM port connection. Yaesu uses different types of RS-232 serial ports and TTL ports, and ICOM uses a CIV TTL interface protocol. But those are the older ones. A lot of the newer radios actually have USB ports that can connect to a PC or even a Mac, for that matter, rather quickly and easily. However, in some cases, it's very important to get the driver for that USB port downloaded from the manufacturer of the radio onto your computer before connecting that USB cable from the back of the radio to the PC or Mac computer.
So the takeaway is make sure that you have the right driver, that and the websites for the various manufacturers do support the latest and greatest drivers. And if you're changing from maybe Windows 7, Windows 10 to Windows 11, all those things can affect it. What about programming VHF, UHF radios, and how successful is the RT Systems package?
Well, yeah, there are two different things that are going on with interfacing radio to a computer. Sometimes, especially for VHF, UHF, what you're trying to do is set up in a program file all the different repeater frequencies and offsets and tones that need to be set to accommodate operating into different 2 meter 440 megahertz repeaters. And then the other thing, of course, is the actual interfacing of the radio for rig control software that is going to uh, allow the PC and potentially a logging program tell the radio what to do, when to change frequency and when to transmit, especially if you're using a contesting program. That's much more popular on HF, of course, than it is on VHF. But the same rules apply. You do have to be able to interface uh, the computer, the laptop, whatever kind of computer device that you're using, and the software to get to talk with the radio in a two-way environment, so that they can both coordinate and do the right thing at the right time.
So, and when it comes to cables, I know, RT Systems is really good about the software and the cable that it takes to go with the radio, right? But in a lot of cases, that's unique and specific.
That's right. There's hundreds of different cables basically, and depending upon the type of connection used on the radio, the type of interface that's used, whether it's TTL or RS-232 serial, or something else. It's a very specific connection. they have RT Systems has all these different cables to hook up radios for programming, as well as for rig control, and then there are a number of other interface cables that are out there in the wild that they may work, but you have to be careful and not plug the wrong thing into the wrong port.
Right. Yeah, that can really be a problem. Rod, I want to. We're gonna jump to amplifiers here in a second, but before that, I want to go in and acknowledge out of the chat room. We got lots of guys tuned in today from Mexico, X-Ray Echo 2 Zulu Zulu, and our good young friend Michael. W3MLJ, Mike Lima Juliet. He is portable at Kilo Papa 2, and he will be on the Thursday show where he and his buddies, they're all under the age of 25, I think.
That's great.
And they're going to the British Virgin Islands, Rod, and they're setting up for the contest this weekend. But so they're on kind of the trip of a lifetime, right? Down in the U.S. Virgin Islands right now, on their way to Victor Papa 2 Victor. And Michael, we wish you a good contest and a safe return. Curtis is on from Wisconsin, Whiskey 9 Bravo Bravo Whiskey. Our good friend Michael, W8 Charlie India from the Dayton Hamvention is on with us. And from Scotland is Golf Mike Zero, Golf Mike November. Jim is on. And we've got Kilo Fox Zero, Oscar Whiskey Hotel. Jason is on Kilo Delta 2 Uniform Delta Radio. And also from the U.S. Virgin Islands in St. Croix, we've got Kilo Papa 2 Bravo on. From Italy, Massimo's on India Norway 3 Bravo Juliet Kilo. And of course, if you're watching, just put yourself in the chat with your call sign, and we'll give you a shout out. Rod, it is the season for D-Expeditions and lots of activity on HF. If you have a compromised antenna, such as maybe an end-fed halfway, and you want to run power, what should you be aware of if you want to run more than 100 watts with that end-fed halfway?
One of the common problems that folks are having is not recognizing the difference between a PEP single sideband rating and a different power rating for CW or digital modes. And so you do have to be very careful with some antennas. The the wire itself possibly is so small it wouldn't even handle a high power, but typically the wire inside or the cores inside of a Ballon, especially on an end fed that's a 49-to-1 Ballon or unon actually, some are even wind up like auto transformers, and that is a situation where it works great at low power. It achieves virtually the same thing as a half wave center fed dipole at lower power, but because of that transformation that's happening at the end of the wire with 49-to-1 unon, it could that ferry can very quickly heat up, and then you have a runaway rising SWR that can actually severely damage and permanently damage that transformer if you apply too much power. And so the rule of thumb when you want to venture into the high power deep end of the pool, as it were, the best bet is to upgrade your antennas first. Go to beams and dipoles and other types of resonant antennas, low SWR antennas, and never push any antenna, even if it's rated to handle over legal limit, which is 1,500 watts here in the United States. That's 1,500 watts PEP or key down. even if the antenna says it handles that, that doesn't mean that it could handle that at a 5-to-1 SWR way off residence. That's the problem with some of the basic antennas, some of the starter antennas that people get, and fed half waves especially. They're okay for getting started, but they're not necessarily okay for high power operation.
So while we're on the subject, one of the most popular antennas, and I know you did a lot of testing in this area, and a lot of testing with the Hustler BTV verticals.
Yeah.
And we have, on our website on dxengineering.com, we have a 65-page manual that you contributed to an awful lot. Parky did a great job, KBAUUZ, at putting this manual together. And it tells you how to get the maximum benefit out of the BTV line of verticals. But Rod, your most recent testing was, the power limitations that were put on that vertical were back before FT8 was a thing.
That's
and
right.
now with FT8, you've done extensive testing. And why don't you talk about where you see the power ratings from your experience and your testing on the BTV line of verticals?
Sure, and actually, as it turned out, the ratings or the thresholds of overheating and damage to the traps on the Hustler BTV, and also on coil loaded antennas of other types, on balance, on a lot of different antenna products. It turns out that a rule of thumb to use is that if an antenna like the Hustler has let's say that, for example, on 40 meters where none of the traps well, all of the traps are in play, but they're not being used exactly, on one of the trap frequencies. But 40 meters, the antenna is capable of 1500 watts single sideband. That does not mean it's capable of 1500 watts digital. Like the old timers do back in the day. I guess I'm kind of one of them, and maybe you are too, Tim. The ratings for RTTY, which was a constant carrier signal, and the ratings for AM were 25% of PEP. Now, see, what's confusing for some people is that way back when we were talking about power ratings, they were talking about input power to the final stage of a tube amplifier, that whether it was in a transmitter or an amplifier. But along about the I think it was late 80s, they did away with that, and the ratings became PEP output, or just output power. 1500 watts is the legal limit out for output power. So you take a look at that now. Take 25% of that is 375 watts. People back in the day knew that they couldn't run any more than 375 watts into their antennas or their tuners or their balance or whatever it was that they were using. Of course, we didn't have balance much back then. We had, coiled coax and that kind of thing. But the point is that, just as a rule of thumb, take your antenna's PEP rating, and then 25% of that is going to be the limit for FT8 digital and any of the other constant carrier modes like AM or RTTY.
Excellent, Rod. Rod, I want to go back to the chat room. Thank you so much for sharing your experience with that. In the chat room from Argentina, it's Lima Queen 5 Hotel. Victor is on with us. Our good friend Jimmy Cessna, who is Kilo Bravo 8 November, is on. Brady, and I think Brady is part of the gang of guys that are down in Kilo Papa 2. Maybe not. Whiskey 3 Bravo Radio Lima. Brady is from Pittsburgh. And also Reinhard, the founder of RF Kit, Delta Hotel 3 November Alpha Bravo. Well spoken, Rod. So good vote of confidence from a guy who knows amplifiers.
Real quick.
Knows solid state inside and out. Very, very, very smart guy. we're always thrilled to have Reinhard on here with us. Rod, we could go on and on for hours, but we're out of time for today. But we're going to have you back again soon, and
All right.
for more tech talk with Rod. Rod, thanks so much for coming on today.
All right. Thank you for having me, Tim.
All right. You've been listening to Rod, K3LR, our senior advisor for customers and doing research on all things amateur radio, the best hobby in the world. Hope you all enjoyed it today. Tune in next time on Thursday when we have the youth operators that are down at Victor Papa 2 Victor, the British Virgin Islands, and it's going to be a fun show. We'll see you then. Until then, 73 from DX Engineering.